Coco and I'm a makeup artist from Wollongong, and I've had a few followers ask me how I apply my makeup and what products that I use. So I wanted to do a tutorial today to show you how I apply my makeup and the products that I use. I have really sensitive skin, so I've been searching high and low for trying to find the right products that suit my skin. So I'm going to take you through those products today, and hopefully if you have sensitive skin, these products might help you as well. So if you want to stick around and see how I created this look, keep watching. My foundation that I use is Tarte, and it is their 24-hour full coverage airbrush foundation. I have two different types of foundations. I have their Fair Light, and I also have a lighter one that I use to highlight under my eyes, through the forehead and down the nose. So this one, what I'm going to do first is just use that around the perimeter of the face. And the brush that I'm going to use is the e.l.f. powder brush. This is a really cheap brush, but I love that it's just like a flat kabuki style brush. So the second thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to switch foundations, and like I said, I use the lighter shade, which is the Tarte Fair Honey shade, and I'm going to use the same brush. You can see that I've just applied the foundation around the perimeter of my face, just across this section here, and I'm going to apply that, same brush, just under this section here, a little bit down my forehead around here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So the next thing that I'm going to do is pick up another brush, and this is a Sigma brush. It's a soft blend concealer brush. It's quite fluffy. So what I'm going to do is again pick up that lighter shade, Fair Honey, and I'm going to dip in and I'm going to apply just to give just a bit more concentration under the eye. I'm going to use the same brush. I'm going to pick up that darker shade, which is Fair Light Neutral, and I'm going to cover my whole nose with the same brush. And if you've got any like spots that you just want to cover up a little bit more, you could go ahead and use the more dense brush to just conceal and just cover those other areas. And then I like to use the flat kabuki brush just to blend it all in. So that's it for the base at the moment. Next I'm going to move on to my brow. So because I have really sensitive skin, I use the Inika, it's basically an eyeshadow, but it's a very cool shade. The shade is called Coco Motion, and it's just a loose eyeshadow. So I'm using just a angled brush with a spoolie on the end of it. I'm just going to brush my brows up into shape. And then I'm going to start dipping into this colour to really start shaping them out. Now I have quite straight brows, so I really like to bring the arch quite high up. So I build the brow from the top rather than the bottom, so it looks like I have more of an arch. So I'm just going to go ahead and do the same thing on the other brow. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to just prime the lids. Now I have another foundation, I know it's a bit excessive, but I also have used the Inika foundation, their loose mineral foundation. Now this colour is Grace, and I like to use this over my eyelids because I feel like it has a bit more tackiness, so it holds the eyeshadow a little bit better. So I'm just going to go ahead and use my same fluffy concealer brush and just apply that over my lids just to get rid of any pigmentation. Now I'm a big fan of Tarte because their products, for me, I find that they're less irritating to my sensitive skin, so I have a lot of their products, and I have 2 of their palettes. One is the Tartlet palette, so I'm going to be using this one today. These are all matte shadows, and because I'm getting a little older, I find that I'm more inclined to use matte shadows for my eyes. Shimmering kind of colours tend to bring out the wrinkles and fine lines, so I tend to stick to matte shadows nowadays. So the brush I'm going to be using is this just fluffy Real Techniques brush, and this is what I'm going to be using just to use as my transition. So I'm going to be dipping into the lighter shade, which is called Super Moon. So because I'm going to be wearing quite a bold lip today, I'm just going to keep it fairly natural on the eyes. So the next colour that I'm going to be using is this one called Wanderer. You can choose to use the same brush because it's quite nice and fluffy, or you can switch to another brush. I'm just going to stick to the same brush. And I'm going to be applying that over the whole lid. So now what I'm going to do is pick up a blending brush. This is just a cheapie that I got from IMATS last year, and just blending out all the edges. I'm now going to be using a more dense brush. It's still quite fluffy, it's just a little bit denser, and I'm going to be dipping into this shade called Dreamer just to give my eyes a bit more of a contour. So I'm just going to be applying that right into the crease. So I'm going to pick up my blending brush again, and I'm just going to start blending out any harsh edges. And also just trying to extend and then bring that darker shade just out in the corners slightly a little bit. This is a really easy way to apply eyeshadow and just get a nice contour eye. I've just seen some kind of whitish spots just at the base of my lash line, so I'm just going to go in again with Wanderer and just really pack on that colour, just so we don't have any white spots and it's kind of fairly even all over the lid. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start extending that lighter shade just slightly out, just towards the corner, because I'm going to start connecting it down to the bottom. So I'm going to take my Wanderer shade now and dip it in with my denser brush and just start applying it under the lower lash line. I always like to smoke out my lower lash line. I just feel like it makes my eyes a bit bigger. So now that I've just applied that shade to the lower lash line, I'm going to grab my blending brush and just kind of blend out any harsh edges that I can see. And because the lipstick is going to be so kind of intense and dark, I'm really just going to leave it at that. I'm also a mum of 2, so I don't really have time to spend a lot of time on my eye makeup. Because the shape of my eyes, I really like to just keep the eyeshadow quite soft, so I don't really spend a lot of time with eyeliners. I do if I'm going out of an evening, but for a day look just like this and I want to wear a bright colour, I just kind of leave the eyeshadow as that. So fairly simple, really easy to do. So let's move on to the next step. I'm just going to dust away any excess fallout that might have come down, and then I'm going to come back to my big fluffy concealer brush and just go over with my lighter shade, which is Fair Honey, and just kind of clean up anything that might have fallen down and just muddled that area under the eye. I never used to curl my eyelashes because I have quite curly lashes, but I saw Desi makeup, Desi Perkins, I'm sure you know who she is. She always curls her lashes if she's just going au natural, and I really do find it makes a huge difference. So because of my sensitive skin, again, I'm going to be using a Tarte product. This is their Captivating Blush. I find it doesn't react to my skin at all, so it's a really nice colour. It's kind of that peachy keen kind of colour, and I like to apply that to the apples of my cheek. And then for highlighting, I'm just going to grab this fan brush and dip into Mary Luminizer and just dust it on the high points of my cheekbone. And because I'm using more of a reddish colour on my lips today, I'm going to come back and use my blush brush and dip into the Betty Luminizer. And just to go over my cheeks, just to intensify the kind of colour so it's a bit more of a brown tone. So another product that I love to use and is fairly good with my sensitive skin is the Balm Bahama Mama. It's a really good bronzer because it's a very cool tone, so for everyone who has pale skin, I find that it's a really nice bronzer. It's not too warm for the little paleys out there. So I'm going to grab a brush which is, it's just a dual fibre brush, but I just use it, I'm just find that it's nice and fluffy and it really kind of does the job as to what I want it to do. So I also like to warm up the perimeter of my face again, so same brush, same palette, just going to dip into that and just accentuate my jawline. Dip into contouring your nose, which I like to do a little bit. I use the same palette. I've already darkened the nose with the darker shade of my foundation, and I'm using this Real Techniques brush. I find that it's just a really great brush to get a nice clean line that's not too harsh. I just dip it into the Bahama Mama and just draw as straight a line as possible down my nose. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back with this big concealer brush and just kind of blend in the sides. I'm going to come back to the lightest shade that I use, the lightest foundation shade, which is Fair Honey. I'm going to use this very tiny, it is a concealer brush, so I'm going to dip into that. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to dip into Mary Luminizer and just dust a little bit with a little kind of fluffy brush right on the tip of my nose to highlight that. A little bit down the bridge, a tiny bit up here, and down here. So I just like to do the Cupid's bow, and instead of following the lip line, I actually like to just follow the bow itself. So lastly, onto lipstick, I'm going to be using some colours that I bought at IMATS. This lip liner is called He Said, She Said. It's a little bit darker than the lipstick I'm going to be using. This is called Dubnet, and it's an amplified lipstick, so it's quite sheer and a bit glossy. So I'm just going to be applying those two. So that's the finished look. I hope you liked watching my YouTube video today. It's been a long time since I've been on YouTube, so I'm looking forward to shooting some more videos. If you like what you saw, please subscribe or give it a thumbs up. Catch you later. Bye.